Somebody that I actually named my child after. It is Dr. James Beckett. How are you doing, sir?
What a great introduction. There are not many people that can introduce me that way. I'm honored to be here, Tanner.
Well, yeah, it's funny because for decades, really, the name Beckett was just a magazine to me, and not really just a magazine, but right behind the Bible. I grew up with that magazine. I read it voraciously. I loved it so much, and then I saw that you had a podcast yourself, and I jumped out of my skin. I was so excited to be able to listen to you talk, and so you have this format, which is really interesting. It is completely opposite of what I do on my show, because I say show in air quotes because it's just me talking and rambling every now and then very randomly for 8 minutes or 2 hours. It depends. But you have something for 15 minutes almost every day except for Sunday and holidays. Is that right?
Pretty much, yeah. Sundays and certain holidays I don't do.
Okay. And what would you say, since you've been in the hobby for several decades now, what would you say was your most enjoyable time period in this hobby? Would you say it's now, or would you say it's the 80s, the 60s? What would you say?
I mean, I enjoyed the 50s because that's when I first started collecting. The 60s, not much going on in the 60s. The 70s was like the Wild West. That was pretty exciting because I was in on the ground floor of something that you just knew this thing was, and it was so much fun. There weren't that many collectors. There weren't any shows. And then there were starting to be shows. And I was one of the regulars, and I was one of the in the know, dealers. I knew pretty quickly what was scarcer and what would eventually be more valuable. The 80s were really exciting, and I started the company in that decade. The 90s, it probably dropped off a little bit. I think there was some huge success the first half of the 90s. Of course, then 96, I had a heart attack, so that kind of changed everything. But I did survive. I was miraculously revived. Praise God. And then after that, I pretty much was an executive. I became the CEO. I mean, I already was the CEO, but I was more of like a CEO and a chairman of the board kind of guy. So I wasn't as involved in the day-to-day stuff after that. And then in the 2000s, halfway through the 2000s, I sold the company. And I had a non-compete, and I didn't do a whole lot for a while there. And then the last 10 years or so, I've jumped back in. I've had an account with ComC, and I've enjoyed, just going to some shows here and there and going back to being a hobbyist. So I was to answer your question, the most enjoyment was kind of being a collector / dealer, and that was mostly in the 70s. And then now, where I don't have to make a payroll or have all these deadlines.
But so now the one question I have for you is, I'm sure you've heard this, 11 billion times probably. How do you value a card? You have somebody that says, well, Beckett is the Bible. And then you have other people say that eBay is the Bible. So I would love to hear it from, the authority on the situation. How do you value cards nowadays?
Well, I would say there's only one Bible, but, there's actually not just one Bible, because there are different denominations that have the Bible plus some additional books. So, but if what Protestant think of as the Bible of 66 books, it's a little sacrilegious to say that either eBay or my old company and our price guides were biblical. If that was intended to be authoritative, which the Bible is no longer authoritative in our culture. So I don't think eBay is authoritative or Beckett Publications was authoritative either, but they're helpful. They're helpful. And if I were going to be selling a really expensive card, I'd look in the OPG, or get out the most current Beckett price guide. But I might also look in the SMR if it was graded. I'd go on eBay. I'd check ComC. I'd look in the Beckett Marketplace. I'd look StarStock. I'd go anywhere where they're selling a bunch of cards that I think this might have some input or some way to get a handle on what the card is really selling for. Having said that, if it's a $1 card or a $5 card, I'm not going to do a bunch of exhaustive research. So I'm going to do the thing that is most handy. If I'm at a card show and it's a $500 card, I'm going to do some research. If it's a $5 card, I'm going to say it's either worth it or it's not. I might, and that's where the Beckett price guides would be really helpful. If you've got one with you, you just flip to the page, look at it, and it's $4, $6, $10, $2, whatever it is, and you can say, well, I either want to do it or not do it. So again, not authoritative, but helpful.
Yeah, I think that's extremely helpful information for people to know, to hear from you about this, that, there's not necessarily just one place, but really kind of get a better feel of the higher dollar cards by looking several places, not just Beckett, not just eBay, but, other places as well, and all together. And also there's a lot of higher dollar cards that will never see the market. So they're just private sales. So
the higher dollar is a completely different market. And basically when you're talking about one of ones, they're really not even in the price guides generally. And so basically you're looking for comparables. And so you have to be your own price guide analyst. And that takes time. And you'll do that for a card that's hundreds or thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars. You're not going to do that for a $5 card. So that's why I'm not saying that ComC and Beckett Marketplace and Sport Lots and the Beckett Price Guides and all, they're only long tail. I mean, they have information on a lot of stuff, but for the average, the 99% of the cards are just, they are what they are. And you reach into your pocket. You don't have to mortgage your second mortgage on your home.